runoff was so full and froze to where we skated way down to the airport.
Yep.
It's probably a good half mile or 3/4 mile, maybe a mile.
Sounds like Hans Brinker.
Yeah, right. Hans Brinker or the Silver
You going
Skates.
to Broadway?
Yeah, we'll go down Broadway. Now this house on the corner was there when we were kids.
Caesars.
The Sousers lived there. They had about 5 or 6 kids. And he was a boiler plant operator at the Memorial Hospital. And this is all open field over here. And here. But these houses, starting right here, down that block, they were there when we were kids. And then there was open fields beyond that. And then this, I think this house was built just before the war, and this one was right here. The open fields over here. And then this little house right ahead of us, 725 Broadway, is where we lived. And the house next to it is the house where I was born.
And that's the one that Mom and Dad built
Yeah.
when they moved to Wausau.
Yeah, that was built in 1927.
Do you think these people would shoot us if we asked?
The what?
Or would you just... I'd like to get out and walk around.
Yeah, let's pull up here a little bit. There was a man on the sweeping the sidewalk in front of the house next door here. And I had always wanted to stop and inquire about the house where I was born. So I stopped, and this man was out there sweeping. And I told him who I was, from Arizona, and I wanted to just, I was living in the past a little bit. And I noticed a woman came to the door, was standing behind the screen door. This was on June 6, 1998. And this man turns on, "Hey, Ethel, this guy says he was born here." Well, and she became real interested suddenly, so she came out and asked me a lot of questions, when the house was built and so on. And I asked her questions about the house also. I said, is there the well still in the basement and the pump? She said, what? I said, there used to be a well in the basement with a pump and a cover on it. That was our 1930s refrigerator. We used to put the butter and milk in the bucket and down in the well. No, I didn't know that was ever there. She was about the 4th owner of the house since we moved out of it, maybe the 4th or 5th owner. But anyhow, that was obviously filled in and covered over. She had no knowledge of that at all. But then she said, would you like to see the room where you were born? I said, sure. So I walked in right into that corner bedroom. Yeah. And it was neat and immaculate, and that's my birthplace. And in the meantime, this lady was curious, so she came out. And Betty got talking to her while I was over there doing my tour of my birthplace. So this lady was familiar with that event 2 years ago.
So, just to get the history right on the houses, so you lived in the 7, whatever the number is next to here, next to 725 First.
4 years old when we moved back. By the way, I planted these trees down.
Which ones?
The ones that are still here.
I mean, how far down the street here?
Oh, that's just these 3.
Okay. Yeah, so I still need...
Built this too, and built the sidewalk. Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to get the history straight, because I get it confused sometimes between... like when the tornado went through, that confuses me, because I want to know what disappeared.
Okay, that was 1936, July 5th, 1936.
The day after
yeah.
4th of July.
Yeah. So Milt was 10 years old then, 12?
Yeah, I was sitting by the window on the west.
In 725, you'd already moved to this house.
Yeah, Dad was gone. It was a year after Dad died.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this window. Mother was in the kitchen. And I said, Mother, looks like a tornado for me. I saw a big cloud Red Mountain, and the end of this big cloud was starting to swirl like this, and it got kind of round, and then it began to dip until it started forming a tunnel. My mother was thinking, well, just, you know, child prattle. I was 10. And I said, looks just like the picture looks like the picture of a tornado in the geography book. That got her attention. She looked out and said, oh, it is. So she went outside, and our neighbor happened to be standing watching. He used to live in western Minnesota, and he'd seen these things. He said, yes, it is a tornado. And he said, we don't have a basement. He said, if it comes this way, you better get your children and your valuables together. We'll have to go in the basement. So they came over. And
came over to your house?
Came over to our house.
They were living where?
Just straight in back of us.
Okay.
See, we had a clear view all the way down the lake from here. This is all open land. See?
Okay.
And we thought we owned it all. I built that too.
That stoop?
No. Put all the siding on too.
Is that the original siding? Looks like it.
No, it had...
No?
Original siding was tar paper.
Okay.
I have a picture of it somewhere.
Okay.
And then we, for I think $17, mother bought some, had been on Dr. Bugby's house. He tore it off and sold it to mother for $17, and we put that on. That lasted until, I remember I painted the whole house one time with about 1.5 inch brush. That's all I could afford. Not paint, but creosote stain. Not a big house. Anyway, back to the tornado.
Yeah.
So we were here at the window over there, and Mr. Swanson gave us a play-by-play description. You know, he said, "Oh, there goes our house."
So that was the one behind the garage here.
Behind the garage. He said, "There goes." He said, "There goes your garage."
And your garage was sitting roughly in this area here.
Right here.
Okay.
And sitting between our garage and the house was one of our wagons. It never moved.
Wow.
But the front porch next door was gone.
Of the house next door.
Yeah, front porch went.
Which one? Across the street or this one?
Right here.
The one where Uncle Ed was born?
Chimney was knocked off. Nothing really happened to our house. Got a good shaking.
Well, the roof did get perforated by the hail that followed, and we had to replace the roof. Remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Big hailstorm and it
Replace the
punched
whole
you.
roof?
Pardon?
Replace the whole roof?
Yeah. There was insurance that covered that.
Oh, okay.
I think it cost $85, as I remember.
That one didn't stick. But then there was no houses. Well, the house down about a half a block. The roof went off and the sides exploded.
Okay.
And then the next two houses down the way got it. Then it lifted over all that residence and came down in the country.
Okay, so the house next to 725, who built it?
Okay, your grandparents did.
Okay.
And they had these two lots. This was all garden.
Okay.
Your lights are on, does it matter?
Whose lights?
Car lights?
Aren't they?
No.
So maybe it's the sun catching it.
That's the
Oh,
sun.
They built when they moved from Appleton to Wausau. After Dad died, Mother couldn't keep the house.
Right.
But it cost her much, so she sold it,
Right.
kept this lot, and built this.
Okay.
And the details on that, she didn't have the money. She went down to Franklin and Loan and borrowed $500 to pay back at $5 a month. But she was determined. Remember, she said she asked God that her children would never be orphaned, that her 3 sons would have good educations, and that she would be able to see her children raised and never live in rented property, that she could live in her own place. Those prayers are answered.
Recently, I went down to the Register of Deeds, and I was looking at some old records there, and I didn't find the mortgage on this house. Really quite interesting to see that official record back in the files in the county courthouse, where the loan was $500, and yeah, really interesting what our mother went through to keep her little family together.
What do you have to do to access a record like that?
Just go in there and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll ask you for an official description of the property. If you don't have that, you go to the county clerk's office, where if you have the address, they will give you for a fee, a 25-cent copy fee, I guess it was, the official description of the property. Then you go to the Register of Deeds, and they have hundreds of books, big books, with the original documents filed in them, and it'll give you the book number and where to find it.
No, I can remember when I was a kid, there used to be a great big willow tree in the backyard here.
Yeah, I planted that too.
Yeah.
Picked a limb off down by the river and planted it. I also planted a hedge around this thing. Remember we tried to garden without fertilizing because we didn't have money to buy fertilizer?
Don't remember that, but...
well, after a few years we did.
Yeah, right.
We weren't doing too well.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have a very luxurious bathroom in this house either. We had, well, when the tornado came and took away the outhouse, then we had to...
We had no house.
No house, yeah. And we had to depend on the goodness of our neighbors or something.
I forget that part.
But anyhow, I think Milt found a chicken coop somewhere down the street here.
Bleezy.
Ewald Bleezy.
Ewald Bleezy.
How to move a $15 chicken coop. Isn't that what we paid?
$18.
$18. How to move it, like 4 or 5 lots down here, up to this location. And I don't know who the engineers were. I was too young to be interested in those kind of things. But I think my brother had this brilliant idea to get some logs. I think he learned it in Scouts. And so you lift up the front of the building and put the log under there and push, and then add some more logs to it. So we actually rolled the outhouse, the chicken coop, up to a new location here. But in the meantime, there had been a sanitary digging, an archaeological search. We didn't find any artifacts, but we did make a nice square hole over here. And the chicken coop fit over just right, and then there was the modifications made for the proper seating arrangements so that the facility could be used for other purposes.
It didn't look like an outhouse, and didn't look like a chicken coop. So a little bit more of that story. We tried to, all the neighbor guys got behind trying to push that thing. Then Ewald Bleezy came along, the guy I bought it from, and said maybe he could pull it. So he put his car on it. I saw him not too many years before he died. And he didn't forget moving that chicken coop because he burned out his transmission.
Price to pay for goodness, huh? Well, I'm sure we'd have stories all day long.
Oh yeah.
Remember the story about Uncle Clyde hanging out some window?
The back window opposite of this one.
See it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On 725.
Under the eaves. And I'd have to get to the top of the ladder, grab the edge of the roof, pull myself up on the roof in order to get up there to work. Didn't have money.
Yeah. That was too.
Yeah, I've heard that story. Tell me again. So
the only basement was just that corner.
Mm-hmm.
So and it wasn't all the way to the corner. It was just part way.
Probably only like 6 feet square, I would guess.
Not much more than 8.
Not that much. Huh?
It was just kind of a place to keep things, like potatoes.
Right.
So we started right where that hole was, where we did have a basement, and dug all the way around. And as we dug around, we built up with masonry stone. Anybody never done that before? Nice 18-inch wall on top, shelf all the way around. One of our friends came by, family friend, looked at that. He said he'd never seen better masonry work. And we pointed that all off.
Yeah, and then there was the day of the hard rain when we had a lot of the wall exposed here without just the dirt wall where we dug. Heavy rain soaked in there and started caving in here.
Mother said, "I'm hearing water."
And this corner of the house started to...
Yeah, the stone here. Is sinking, so that you could see about 2 or 3 inches of air. But I remember I worked so hard to get. I came out here, water, big pool of water, hard dirt. I was digging up dirt and tried to get ahead with the wash. Fortunately, it wasn't running fast enough so that it got away from us. I didn't go to work that day, but I think we stayed with it until we completed it after that.
Yeah.
But our poor mother.
I remember being in this basement. I think it must have been around Christmas time, and Uncle Ed had given me a chemistry set. Maybe we'd stopped by over Christmas or
Clyde
something
or
like
Ed?
that. Uncle Clyde had done it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's Clyde had given, and so we went down in the basement here and did an experiment. And I still remember the experiment was in making a dye. And we dyed a little piece of white cloth blue. And so I must have been about 8 years old at that time. This would have been 1960 perhaps.
Called King's Court. Just go all the way through. But private property, we didn't know that. And I have pictures taken from the window up there, looking down King's Court. What a glamorous
Mail used to
name.
be delivered on Western Avenue. To get our mail, we had to walk.
That's right.
It's full block.
And we used to watch and watch, waiting for the mailman.
And there used to be some farming done in this corner where there's a sizable shed, kind of a small barn. We used to play on the roof. The tree grew next to it, we could climb up there. But that was interesting too. There were old apple trees and stuff we could harvest.
Yeah.
So when did they put in a sidewalk? When did they pave the road?
This all came after the war.
Okay.
This land was all subdivided and they sold the lots for $100 to $150. And what was his name? Not Bonnick. Another name. Anyhow, these lots all sold quickly after the war, and people started putting in their little houses.
So this was a dirt or gravel road then before the war?
Well, it was a gravel road until about after the tornado, because I remember the day they tarred the road. My mother used to tell this story about for the only spanking I ever got. They're putting this nice, smooth tar on the road, warm. And just oozing between the toes. It felt so good. So, anyhow, that would have been about 1935, 36.
Okay. So was the road, was there a separate path for walking then? I mean, like where the sidewalk is now?
No,
you
just walked along the road.
No.
Yeah, there used to be a ditch here. And
Okay.
the spring runoff, you had to put a plank across it to get to the road.
See, it was all running to the low land up here about 100 yards.
Okay.
Where that hollow was, where Fats Rogan walked through the ice. But this is all open field here. You can look down to the school, John Marshall School, and there was a path across this field that I guess our father.
It was Dad.
Started. He'd walk to work. You know, as paths grow, it takes repeated trips, and then you have a path.
I remember many times watching for Dad. You'd see him break cover way on the other side of the block and walk the path that he had made, and down into the gully where Rogan went for the splash. And you could see Dad, he'd disappear, and then he'd come up the path home.
Yeah.
We'd run to meet him.
Yeah.